The astonishing Curtis Sneeden. He is a graduate of the prestigious McBride School of Magic and Mystery in Las Vegas.
Thank you. We have prepared a special VIP performance for all of you VIPs. This is not a conventional magic show because the idea is that we wanted to give you an experience that is different from what the folks out on the street are having. So I would like to ask, I've already arranged for Nikki to come up and join me. Can you come on? Okay. Tom, would you be willing to help out? Come on up here.
You sure?
Well, actually I'm pretty dubious about it, to be honest with you. Come on up, bring your beer. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Nikki and Tom, give them a big round of applause. My name is Curtis, and I am a mystery performer. I used to call myself a magician, but mystery performers get paid more. So now I'm a mystery performer. And like I said, I have put together a presentation which is a little different from the usual magic show. I am not allowed to share my secrets with you. But tonight, I would like to explore a different facet of the art of magic that I think you will find to be just as fascinating as the secrets themselves. I hope you're able to see. If not, feel free to stand up or move closer or just enjoy the space back there. So, one of the magical giants of the late 1800s was an English magician. His name was David Devant. And Devant used to love to tell the story of an avid fan who came up to him after a show. And he said, "Is the magician still going to do his thing? Is the magician canceled?" What this avid amateur said was, "Mr. Devant, I bet I know 300 card tricks. How many do you know?" Well, Devant thought about it. And he said, "My boy, I should think that I know about 8. That's kind of a snarky thing for a seasoned professional to say to a fan, isn't it? But Devant's comment does go to the heart of one of the deepest secrets of magic, which is actually hidden in plain view. And that is that there is a world of difference between just knowing how the trick is done and performing memorable magic. Usually, learning the secret is the easy part. Today, I would like to walk you through that transformation from a simple trick to the sort of experience that maybe you'll remember for a lifetime. But we do first have to start with the trick. And this is a pretty good one to start with. This is a classic of magic. Most magicians are eventually expected to learn this. It involves the 4 aces, and it is typically referred to as the 4-ace trick.
Thank you. Or not the cards you put down.
No, those weren't the cards.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's magic. See? Feel free to move. That's why I thought moving closer might be a benefit to you. Oh, you can see it out there? All right.
Yeah.
You can see that. Well, you can communicate to them what's happening. Say ooh a lot, okay? Typically in the 4-ace trick, the 4 aces are dealt out onto the table. And we have to time it right. Otherwise it's just irrelevant. Each ace is given 3 indifferent cards. Now that is the sort of word we don't use very often in ordinary conversation, isn't it? Indifferent. All it means, Tom, is that the identities of these cards doesn't make any difference to us. We don't care which cards they are. The point is that each ace gets 3 of them. And if you've ever worked for a large corporation, you know exactly how these cards feel, right, Nikki? And Nikki, I will need your 2 fingers.
Okay.
Please take your 2 fingers and tap any 2 of those packets.
Okay.
That one in there. Good. Now pick one of those up, please. Perfect. That there. We will snap. We will snap. Thank you. That's, well, you probably changed it all back.
Sorry, I messed it up.
Follow my lead, and watch as those aces disappear from over here and reappear over here. There you go.
Ooh, wow.
That's the basic plot line of the 4-ace trick, and I was asked to learn that and perform it when I auditioned for my first magic club. But can we be honest with one another? Is there any realistic possibility that you'll be talking about that when you walk out of here tonight?
Yes, how do you do it? Yeah.
Do you think you might mention it to your friends at dinner this evening or your
We already had
grandkids?
dinner.
Probably
Come on,
not.
probably not. Okay, that's because this simple version of the 4-ace trick lacks what we magicians call conviction. It's just not that convincing. Now that you know what's supposed to happen, I would be surprised if your mind isn't working backwards and you're thinking, okay, hang on a second. I know where the ace of spades was. That was easy enough to keep track of, right? That was the first one he laid down. But these cards were all face down. And it was a long time before I saw them again. I'm not convinced at all that those were the aces that you laid out on the table. I expect that that's exactly what Lisa's thinking. Okay, well, if we want to overcome that, we're going to need to address that issue. We want this to be more than just a trick. So let's try it differently. Suppose this time we lay the aces face up. And let's give each of them their same 3 different cards. It's similar to the format from before, but I think you will agree that this changes the dynamic a little bit, doesn't it? 3 indifferent cards. This is humidity, just killing me. Okay, 3 indifferent cards. They are in plain sight. And so is the ace of hearts. In plain sight. And yet, did you want to snap your fingers again? You will see that the ace has vanished.
Oh.
Okay. I went too fast, didn't I, Lisa?
Not for me.
Not for me. Let's go more slowly this time. The 3 indifferent cards, the ace of clubs, and it is in plain view until the very instant that it's not. And yet, it's not there. It's vanished. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Now, the man who invented this sort of slow motion version of the 4-ace trick is still rightfully regarded as a legend by most magicians, because when you get right down to it, as conviction goes, it doesn't get much deeper than that. Right? I mean, the ace is not there. This version of the 4-ace trick is exceptionally convincing.
Nice.
Thanks. Can you still see okay back there?
Yeah.
All right.
Sir, I forgot your name. Is table
Curtis.
slamming a good substitute for clapping?
You bet.
You're alive.
All right. That's perfect. But you know, as convincing as that is, my dear friend, the late Eugene Berger, who is also very influential, was an influential magic teacher, said, even that version of the 4-ace trick is still just the strange and wondrous adventures of a bunch of playing cards journeying through some guy's hands, right? I mean, who cares about that? What we care about is people and living. I knew that if my audition of the 4-ace effect were going to stand apart, it needed to be about something other than just playing cards. And that's when I experienced a performance of what is usually regarded as the greatest piece of card magic of the 20th century. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay, no, here it is. This one. This one. Earlier in my career, I had the privilege of traveling in Latin America. I think we can all relate to it. We all worked for the same company,
Yeah.
open business in Latin America. On this particular occasion, I was in Ecuador, in the capital city of Quito. my friend and I, my partner and I, when our day was done, we had dinner at a tavern up north of town. We chose to go north of town because we were tired of the hubbub in the downtown Quito area. So we had a few drinks, and a man came up to us and started talking to us. He said that his name was Eduardo, and he was a native of Quito. He'd lived there his entire life. He told us that we were sitting in an exceptionally complicated position, and he wanted to explain why. He gave each of us some cards, and he invited us to mix them up. Please. We've been invited to mix those cards up. And then, once you've mixed them up, please take one of them without looking at it. Hold it face down and use your imagination. If you think that that card is a heart or a diamond, then you will lay it next to the red poker chip. If you think it is a spade or a club, you will lay it next to the black poker chip. Go ahead, what do you think? Okay, try it with the next card. Whatever you think. Follow your intuition. And the next card. You make a little stack. Keep going until...
I like black.
Okay, I can see that. Keep going until your hands are empty. Just follow your intuition. Yes, keep going until your hands are empty. Ecuador, of course, lies on the equator. That's why it's called Ecuador. And you can imagine that most of the, you honestly think all those are clever. Is that what your intuition told you? You can imagine that the bars and restaurants in Quito take advantage of that fact. Most of them have a big line painted down on the wall and across the floor so that you can take selfies straddling the equator, right? It's a tourist attraction. Well, Eduardo told us that we had been very wise to choose this particular restaurant because unlike those tourist traps downtown, this restaurant is on the equator. In fact, this very table is on the equator. You're sitting to the north of the line and you're sitting to the south. You are separated by mere inches, and yet it makes all the difference in the world. He wanted to explain why that was the case. Now, would you do the same thing, Nikki? We're just going to carry these cards across the line. Hands pulled there, yeah. And then switch the poker chips too. Carry those across the equator as well. Thank you, Tom. You kicked in. That's good. Now, according to Eduardo, being so close to the equator tends to sharpen one's intuition. And if that's true, then the cards that you thought were red ought to be diamonds and hearts. Look at that, Nikki.
Wow.
That's incredible. Look what you missed a couple, but look at that. The rest, you missed 3. The rest of those are red. Tom, I wonder if you guessed right. On your one chance, you nailed it. You nailed it. We were sitting there slack-jawed too, just like Tom is. Eduardo stood to walk away, and he turned around and he said, "My friends, welcome to Quito."
Oh my God.
Yes.
Thank you. Usually we have to take a second to breathe in what's just happened. I'm not sure whether Tom was breathing anyway, so that's none of your business. You might want to take your seats now because I would like to close by showing you
Thank you.
my 4-ace trick. Give Nikki and Tom a big round of applause.
So is this where audience can ask questions?
No question.
With an audience this size, I suspect you can probably come up here and do it if you wanted to. We are on intimate terms, aren't we?
Well, the question is, do people such as yourselves come up with your own tricks?
Yes.
Okay.
May I field that after we're done? Because I really would like to share with you my version of the 4-ace effect. This is important to me. This is, my audition was inspired by a man who is arguably the greatest magician who ever walked the face of the earth. He was from Argentina, and his name was Rene Lavande. Now, Lavande is not all that way. Maybe you've heard of Rene Lavande, but he's not all that well known here in the United States. But those audiences around the world who have experienced his performances, to them, this man is a Here's the thing. Rene Lavande only has one hand. He lost the other one in a car wreck when he was a kid. And yet he could do more with one hand than most of us could do if we had three. Tonight, I want to share some of Lavande's magic with you. You'll be glad that he refused to listen when people told him his dream of becoming a great magician was impossible. He would begin by dealing out the 4 aces. And then he would deal 3 indifferent cards onto each ace. 3 indifferent cards is probably starting to sound kind of familiar, isn't it? But you have to keep something in mind. The great Lavande was doing all this dealing with one hand. He had spent almost a decade of his life developing ways to perform magic with cards using just one hand. Once he had his act together, it still took him months to find a talent agent who would pick up the phone, but he finally did schedule an audition. You can appreciate that he was pretty nervous. But he arranged his props carefully, and the talent agent came into the room. But he wasn't alone. He had gathered up friends of his from around Buenos Aires, and he also asked a number of ladies from around the office to come in. Rene Lavande felt that these people were smirking at him because he imagined that they felt that they were about to see this so-called one-handed miracle worker make a fool of himself. So he very calmly showed them that that first ace had vanished before their eyes. He moved on to the second ace. That talent agent stopped chomping on his cigar, and he leaned forward in his seat. And the people in that room stopped smirking when they saw that that second ace, the ace of diamonds, had evaporated into thin air. The room was silent now. He moved on to the 4th ace. He very carefully counted out 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, and then he heard a lady in the back say, "Que milagro." And he smiled. He said, "No." He said, "That's not a miracle." He said, "Maybe it looks like a miracle, but what you have seen is not a miracle. What you've seen is a man who refused to let go of his dreams." Rene Lavande passed that audition, and so did I. I hope you enjoyed our time together.